All right, everybody, hello and welcome back to another video here with Wholeo Awakening and Thunder Dragon Neigong. We're going to be continuing in our series of reading our articles from our blog and offering a bit of commentary on some important topics related to internal martial arts, alchemical cultivation, meditation, qigong practices, and all of that good stuff that we teach here. So, before we begin, as always, be sure to like, subscribe, hit the notification, whatever is applicable to wherever you're watching this so you can be notified of upcoming videos, articles, and educational material. And be sure to check out the links to our website where we have our classes, courses, and consultations available there. So today we're going to be looking at what is probably going to be a very offensive article for a lot of people, but that's good, that's important. People need to become comfortable being uncomfortable. And the fact of the matter is that this is one of the topics that is incredibly pervasive in our society today, even amongst those who would be practitioners of uh, what would be internal cultivation arts, yoga, taiji, meditation, qigong, these things. But it is one of the greatest obstacles to progression along the path, which is why it has to be addressed, it has to be analyzed, and it has to be set aside if we are to progress along our path of cultivation. We're going to be explaining what it is and why it's a problem. So, for those of you who do find it offensive, I encourage you to stick around uh, and listen to the explanation. Think of it as part of your training. Learn to be uncomfortable. All right. So without further ado, we'll go ahead and get started here. Beyond validation, identity, attachment, and the alchemical path of self-cultivation. Modern culture has become fixated on one central pursuit, being seen. We see this in everything around us, no matter what the topic. We have to be seen, be made aware, be validated, be understood, be accepted, be acknowledged. We have to have a day and a celebration for everything. We are told explicitly and repeatedly that mental and emotional well-being depends upon being acknowledged, validated, and affirmed, not only as individuals, but as members of communities defined by race, ethnicity, gender identity, sexual orientation, trauma history, and personal experience. To be recognized publicly is framed as a necessity, almost as a form of survival. To be disregarded, questioned, or minimized is treated as an act of violence. To this end, we are bombarded with endless public spectacle for every cause imaginable. Those who do not participate in this constant ritual of affirmation are labeled as bigoted, hateful, or morally defective. How often do we hear those words thrown around? Bigot or phobe, phobia, whatever the cause, phobe, if you don't actively partake in it and support it and agree with it, condone it. You don't even have to be to be particularly vocal against it. You don't have to be antagonistic toward it. Just as long as you're not with it, you're not taking part in it, you're considered to be phobic or bigoted. It would not be an exaggeration to say that in the modern worldview, the validation of identity has become one of the highest goods. Entire institutions now exist to ensure that every group is acknowledged, that every perspective is honored, that every lived experience is affirmed. We are told that if complete inclusion and equity are not achieved, if every identity is celebrated and publicly recognized, then immeasurable harm will be done. Peace, success, and meaning are presented as impossible unless society offers full acceptance. This is the prevailing religion of the modern age: external validation as salvation. Yet, in the alchemical traditions of self-cultivation, the matter is viewed in a radically different way. So we can't deny that, as I've said, our society is fixated, obsessed with this idea of acknowledgement, of validation, of equity. People are obsessed with creating a world in which everyone and everything is celebrated and affirmed. The problem is, that's not how reality works. That's not how the Tao functions. There is always a balance. It can never be complete equity. There can never be complete quality, because there must always be the shift from one to the other, from one pole to the other. Just as there is life, there must be death. There is love, there is hate. There is good, there is evil. There is light, there is dark. This is how reality must be. It's how it is designed to be. Further, this desire for acceptance and acknowledgement and affirmation is in itself codependence, relying on an external source to gain what should be your internal structure. So let's look at it from the alchemical perspective here. The cultivator's view, the trap of identity. In the internal and arts and alchemical traditions, the hunger to be seen is not regarded as a noble pursuit. It is regarded as an attachment, a fixation upon superficial and temporary forms. The desire to be recognized, to be affirmed, to be validated by the world is not seen as a strength. It is seen as dependence. And dependence is always a weakness, because it places one's peace in the hands of others. It places one's value in the hands of others, one's identity, one's self in the hands of others to do with as they will. If we are dependent on others, being acknowledged and seen by others, if we are dependent on others to approve of us, then we are in their hands. We are not pillars unto ourselves. We are not strong, structured, and rooted in ourselves. From the perspective of internal cultivation, pride in race, ethnicity, gender, sexuality, social class, or trauma history is still pride. It is still ego. It is still a clinging to form. These labels may describe aspects of life experience, but when they become the foundation of identity, they create a prison. They cause the mind to crystallize around a limited self-image and to demand that the world reflect it back with approval. This is not liberation. It is bondage disguised as empowerment. The alchemist understands that the more one clings to identity, the less one can touch the deeper reality of being. Why validation is a false path to peace. Modern ideology claims that inner peace comes from being accepted by others. How often do we hear that? That, well, this group would they would not be having the problems they're having. They would not be having the struggles they're having if only they were accepted by everyone. That's nonsense. Anyone who behaves in any way, who creates any problems for themselves, does it because that is within them to do, not because of what anyone else around them does. This victim mentality that our circumstances and the people around us. Well, if they treated us better, we wouldn't have turned out this way. That is absolutely unacceptable in the alchemical path. Each of us determines our own path and directs it by our own will. And unfortunately, fact of the matter is, the vast majority of people do not have much of a will. They do not have much in the way of character. They do not have much in the way of self-discipline, determination, ingenuity, creativity. The vast majority of people are mediocre, and they have no intention of ever changing that. And that is where their problems arise from. The alchemist never places blame on external circumstances or surroundings. Each of us has the power, if we so choose, to change however we wish. So, the alchemical view is quite the opposite. Inner peace comes from becoming so internally grounded that the actions and opinions of others no longer disturb you. How about that? The person who demands validation is not free. They are perpetually at war with the world, scanning for disrespect, looking for things to be offended by, craving recognition, and measuring life through the lens of external approval. Even when affirmation is given, it does not satisfy for long, because the hunger itself is insatiable. Validation does not heal insecurity, it reinforces it. The more they get, the more they want. This is why a culture that worships recognition produces not peace, but fragility. The more society teaches individuals that they require constant affirmation, the more emotionally unstable and dependent they become. They become unable to withstand disagreement, hardship, or challenge without interpreting it as oppression. They become unable to live life, essentially. And how do we see that today? People who can't tolerate being uncomfortable or offended or being disagreed with. People who can't tolerate existence itself. People have become so pathetically weak and unstable and unhinged that they are barely functional, and they've lost touch with all reality. The alchemist sees this clearly. The desire to be seen is the desire to be controlled. The quiet path: character, vocation, and self-refinement. The true path to peace and success is not found in demanding recognition. It is found in refining oneself. The alchemical traditions teach that the greatest work a person can do is quiet, often unseen, and rarely applauded. It is the daily discipline of improving one's character, strengthening one's will, and living with integrity regardless of circumstance. A person becomes valuable not by declaring their identity, but by embodying virtue. Rather than clamoring about rights, equality, or grievance, the cultivator turns inward and asks a far more dangerous question. What within me is weak? What within me is dishonest? What within me must be refined? I've said it before and I'll say it again, that all of these people today that we see protesting and complaining and fighting and arguing, trying to get others to do what they want them to do, trying to get others to change the way others live, trying to control people around them. The path to solving virtually all of the world's problems is in taking ownership within yourself working on perfecting yourself each day. And if every single one of us would focus on that, making ourselves into the best people we can be, the healthiest, the strongest, the most intelligent, the most wise, the most compassionate, the most disciplined, hardworking people that we can be, then the entire world would change. But no, no one wants to do that. They want to blame others instead. This is the work most people avoid. It is far easier to demand that society change than to confront one's own laziness, fear, entitlement, bitterness, or lack of discipline. It is far easier to blame external enemies than to admit internal flaws. And so the modern obsession with oppression narratives often becomes a convenient excuse. Everyone's oppressed. An ideological shield that prevents self-examination. It's not our fault, they did it to us. If only it weren't for them, we would have risen higher. No, you wouldn't. You're where you are because you're weak. You have no discipline, no character, no determination, no willpower, no creativity, no ingenuity, no ability to accomplish anything that would put yourself in a better position. That's why you are where you are. That's why we're all where we're at. Because of what we have decided to do in ourselves. No fault of anyone or anything around us. It offers a cheap sense of moral superiority while avoiding the hard labor of personal transformation. The alchemist has no interest in such games. Internal martial arts as alchemical training. Taijiquan and qigong are not merely gentle movement practices. At their root, they are alchemical disciplines. They are methods of transformation, designed to refine the body, to regulate the mind, and to purify the spirit. Because of this, practitioners of internal arts face a particular obligation. They must confront their own attachments. You cannot be involved in these practices while still going about living the way the world lives, living the way the world has destroyed itself. In training, the ego is exposed relentlessly. Weakness becomes visible. Imbalances reveal themselves. The body shows where it is tense, where it is crooked, unstable, or disconnected. The mind reveals impatience, distraction, fantasy, and pride. It's not accidental. This is the purpose of the art, to expose these flaws so that they can be corrected. The internal arts bring the practitioner face to face with their own inner disorder, because only what is seen can be refined. And among the greatest disorders of the modern age is narcissistic attachment to identity. The cultivator must recognize how the hunger to be special, to be recognized and affirmed, corrupts the mind and drains vitality. You must see how entitlement creates weakness. Thinking that you're owed something is a weakness. You must notice how blame destroys personal power. Blaming others is the same thing as admitting that you are weak, that you can do nothing, that you are powerless. You must be willing to sacrifice these tendencies to the fire of discipline. This is the meaning of alchemical refinement. We burn our weaknesses in the fire. The internal arts have no place for entitlement. Entitlement is poison to cultivation. A person who believes they deserve comfort will never endure the discomfort required for growth. A person who believes they deserve recognition will be unable to accept the silent nature of true training. A person who believes their flaws are justified by circumstance will never put in the effort to correct them. Internal cultivation demands the opposite posture, humility instead of pride. Don't go around saying pride in this or that. Everyone says they have pride in their particular group, their particular affiliation. This has to be released. We have to cultivate discipline instead of excuse. No excuses, only discipline. Self-responsibility instead of blame. Only you are responsible for your life and the outcome. Quiet effort instead of public performance. Which means, for the love of all that is good and decent in this world, quit recording yourself doing everything throughout your day. Learn to be alone and learn to put in quiet effort that no one knows about but you. The internal arts do not reward victimhood. They do not reward identity politics. They do not reward complaint. They reward only one thing: consistent refinement. A practitioner either transforms or they do not. Walking alone toward the true self. Each of us walks alone the path of the alchemist. Teachers may guide, companions may encourage, traditions may provide maps, but ultimately the work is solitary because it takes place within one's own mind, body, spirit. The path of internal cultivation requires daily sacrifice, burning away limitation, dissolving false identity, and relinquishing the childish need to be validated by the world. This is not a cruelty, it is true liberation. When identity is released, the practitioner becomes lighter. When entitlement is abandoned, the spirit becomes strong. When the hunger to be seen fades, true peace arises, quiet, stable, and unmoved by praise or condemnation. This is the alchemical path, not to demand acceptance from the world, but to refine oneself until the world can no longer disturb the inner throne. And from that stillness, true power is born. So this is, as I said, something very important that we all need to think about, consider every day, because we are surrounded by the distraction, the temptation to get involved in all of this nonsense. And I'm not saying one side or the other. You can be, obviously, there are some who are more vocal, more obnoxious than others, but to be attached to any sort of identity in this way, to have any sort of us versus them, oppressor and oppressed mentality, is an obstacle to the path. We have to relinquish all of this to become stable pillars unto ourselves, to refine ourselves to be the best we can be in every aspect. And only in that way can we truly affect change in the world for the better. So with that said, we will leave it there, and we'll pick up next time with some more of these articles for our consideration in our practice. As always, again, Make sure, like, subscribe, uh, follow, hit the notification, whatever you need to do, wherever you're watching this. And be sure to check out the website for classes, courses, and consultations, and all sorts of other goodies. And we will see you next time. Everybody, take care.